Going to break down forehand here. This is an old video of Djokovic, vintage video, vintage coverage. It's out of focus, but I want to go through one of the concepts here that isn't really talked too much about by coaches, if at all, really. I don't know that I've ever heard a coach talk about this. Slightly high elbow, take back. Not going to get into why, but high elbow is greater than low elbow. What I want to talk about here is this motion right here, and that is kind of the game changer that will take your forehand to the next level. Now, all this being said, I don't like to be prescriptive in teaching. In other words, this is not a requirement to play at a decent level. However, if you want to play at a pretty high level, I think this is a technique that one, will get you to a higher level, and number two, will also help you when you're in a tight situation, trying to close out a match in a tiebreaker. This particular technique, and when I say technique, I mean it is a technical biomechanical motion that most of you guys aren't doing. One thing I'm a big promoter of is swinging out on a 45-degree angle, meaning that the arm structure is going outwards. See the initial outwards motion? See how the arm is going outwards? But here's the secret sauce. When you go out, and the reason he's going out is because he's pulling the racket with his shoulder. See his shoulder turn to bring the butt of the racket towards contact. Right? So the swing is going out. Once he reaches his extension point, which isn't very far because he hits with a bent elbow. If you have a straight arm elbow, then you're going to have a little bit more extension outwards until you reach that point where the arm doesn't extend. And then you start pulling the handle inwards and upwards. Now this is the secret sauce. We talk about low to high swings and brushing up. In reality, here's what's happening. When he reaches this point of where he's not extending out on a 45-degree angle anymore, the butt of the racket, his hand, is pulling inwards, and that pulls the racket tip up. Let me be totally clear here. The pronation, which everyone talks about, of the forearm is passive. He is not actively rotating his forearm. His forearm is pronating because he is pulling mechanically inwards. Watch his arm and his hand coming inwards, and because has a relatively loose grip, this flips the racket upwards, and with this face angle, brushes up the back of the ball. And this is why these guys can swing as hard as they want, and the ball is still going to go in the court, because their linear direction of the swing is being trumped by pulling the racket upwards and brushing up the back of the ball, not because he's pronating his forehand, because he is pulling the racket inwards. And that's changing the axis from this linear, going out on a 45 linear, pulling in, and that flips the racket tip up. So, do you want to go out there and try that? It's up to you. You know, this is not a requirement to play at a decent level. But again, if you're tight in a match and you're trying to make balls, then this is a technique that's going to get you through a match, because you're going to be able to add a little more upward momentum up the back of the ball, and be sure to get the ball in play while maintaining your racket hit speed. And I think that's this is the reason I made the video. This is what I see oftentimes when players get in tight situations. They tend to decelerate so they don't push the ball out, where in this case you can maintain your acceleration, and you can also hit a quality ball and keep your opponent behind the baseline.